look at that. The crankshaft split right there. These things are very, very well cooked. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today we will be breaking down both of my VG30DE blocks. One was originally twin turbo, one is an NA. And we are going to be swapping a lot of this stuff over from the twin turbo over to the NA, and it's going to be built to make over 1,000 horsepower in my 300ZX. And while we're at it, we're gonna be going over the differences between the bare blocks in general of the NA and the twin turbo, because I hear a lot of people over the years just going, well, I want to sell my NA or swap my NA motor for a twin turbo motor because the twin turbo is so much better. Well, to be honest, the blocks themselves are pretty much identical. Once you get down to the bare bones of the block, the oil passages, all that stuff, it's all the same. It's just slightly different fittings here and there on the outside of the block that make them a little bit different, which we will be going into detail on today because I have to go through this myself to get the block prepared for the machine shop. So with that said, we will be pulling out the crankshaft, miking the journals, checking over the blocks, making sure there's no stress cracks or anything like that in the blocks or the main cap area themselves. So stick around and let's get into this. I gotta interrupt this video because this morning it was a brisk, like 40 degrees out, and this Florida boy does not function at anything below about 70 degrees. So with that said, we got a showcase today, the Billy built hooded jacket. This thing is zip up. It is cotton on the outside and polyester on the inside, I believe. It is super nice. We got the No Worries logo on the back. And of course, like I said, it is hooded. It is super comfy. It's almost too nice to do any work in because it's just a casual go out and do something jacket. I love this thing. So if you get any value out of this video and you want some 300ZX merchandise, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys head on over to billybuilds.com. I'll put a link down below as well. And get yourself some Z32 merch. I also got some Supra shirts on there if you like the Mark III stuff. Thank you all for supporting the channel. Let's get 2025 started and off with a good bang. So let's get into this. Got it. All right, let's take a look at these bearings. Main bearings actually look relatively good, except for that thrust bearing. That one looks a little overheated. But overall, doesn't look bad. Looks pretty good so far. Hopefully the rest of it checks out all right. I probably should have removed the rod bolts before, but oh well. Now, obviously, if you're going to reuse any of these parts, I don't suggest tearing it apart like this because I'm only going to be reusing the crank. This is perfectly acceptable. Bearing looks good. That one looks a little rough. That one looks pretty good too. Overall, I'd say they're not too bad. One. Oof. Good enough. Come on. For the record, I'm not going to be reusing any of those rods or pistons. So before anyone says, oh my God, you let it hit the ground, it doesn't matter. I'm not reusing it. It's probably gonna all end up in the trash or on a shelf somewhere, or maybe someday I'll find something creative to do with it, like weld it to a table. I do have a spare block, you know. Okay, so since yours truly is kind of an idiot, I started on this yesterday and totally forgot, but I'm gonna have to pull these two 10mm out. And to be honest, I thought about it as I was removing the pistons, but I said, screw it, I'm gonna do it anyways, and we did. But now I have to actually get this out. Just gonna take my little wedge this in there, and voila, it's off. Alrighty, there we go. Oh dear, I should have cleared off a spot for this first. Okay, so I've got the crank set up, got my micrometer. Basically what I want to do is just go around it and probably 2 to 3 different locations. I'm just gonna check it in different locations to make sure that each journal is perfectly round. So I'm gonna go over the main caps first, get one set, and then I'm gonna kind of roughly check the other ones based on how they all feel. And they should all slide in and out smoothly. And it has to go all the way across and then come back over in order to find, obviously, the biggest part of the journal. So, with that said, I'm going to do my first one on the camera, and then we're gonna switch to the time lapse. I think you guys get the picture from there. And I did dabble a little bit of oil on this, just so it doesn't get too much grit against the crankshaft. Now, what you also have to remember is it can go like this as well as like this. So you wanna try to basically find the lowest point, and then once it snags there, give it another turn, wiggle it a little bit, give it another turn, and all I'm doing is continuously tightening it little by little. So now I'm getting closer and closer. And I think that should be it right about there. Yeah, I don't think I can do much more than that. Okay, and with that, if you really want to get technical, we are at 62.98 millimeters of journal diameter. So, and that is going this way across. Now, I'm gonna switch it over. And this is locked in here. So this should not spin any more than it is. That's about the tightest I could find right there. So this should also go all the way across. And that feels pretty tight. Yep, all right, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. I checked that one in 2 different spots. I think that should be good enough. 2 is probably about good. So we're gonna check this one here. This one feels a little bit looser, but I don't think it's too bad. All right, check this one. That one feels good. That one feels good. Okay, so everything checks out good. We are at 62.98 millimeters. So now we're gonna switch over and do the rod journals themselves. Okay, so I've dropped down to the next size smaller. Now all we gotta do is same thing. All right, so what do we got here? Yep, right at, so yeah, 49 and 49.97. Is that right? Yeah, 49.97. This one here feels about the same. Let's check it this way. Okay. And this one. Okay, good news. Journal diameters all check out good. So now I'm just gonna go back and double check those measurements with the OEM journal diameter requirements. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but I could probably put a little snippet of what they are here in this video for you guys. So let me go check that out, and then we can move on to the next step. So believe it or not, I actually forgot probably the most important part of this entire video, because I made the mistake of putting my old block away last night. So I had to pull everything out of the shed just to get this block back out. So we're gonna make this worthwhile, and we're gonna break down the differences between the NA and the twin turbo blocks. But to my knowledge, there is no like bare block to bare block comparison on video out there anywhere. So this might be a first for the VG30, and I really wanna break it down, because honestly, when you break them down to this stage, there's like very, very few differences. And unless you really know what you're looking for, you're not gonna be able to find them. So without further ado, let's get down to the differences between the NA and the twin turbo VG30 blocks. Now, number one, first and foremost, which I actually already mentioned previously, and that's going to be the check valves where the oil tree bolts up to. If you see here, there's 2 little check ball valves that go into the block right here, and on the twin turbo, it's just blocked off. And the reason for that is because those check valves in this motor are actually in the oil filter tree of the twin turbos. If you were to switch over to like what I have, where I have the Brett Dempsey Engineering oil filter relocation bracket, you actually need to remove the check valves out of the NA and block off these ports. So that is what I will be doing for that. Also, if you look down in here, the NA also has oil filter squirters, which on something like a 2JZ, the NA blocks do not have oil squirters going to the pistons. And if you look, the twin turbo also has some. However, as it is noted, the NA oil squirters are a little bit longer and point at a slightly different angle than the twin turbo ones do. So that is, to be honest, they almost look the same to me. That's what I've heard anyways, is that they are angled differently, but if I'm being completely honest, they kind of look the same. If there is a difference between the oil squirters, it's very, very minimal. The NA and the twin turbo blocks are almost identical, except for those, I would say, 2 little features. Now, as far as the rotating assembly goes, that means the crank, rods, and pistons. The crank and rods are identical between the NA and the twin turbo motors. However, the pistons are differently because there is lower compression on the twin turbo pistons versus the NA. Also, the NA wrist pins at the pistons are smaller diameter and are known to be a little bit weaker. However, to my knowledge, only a few people have actually ran into that issue. However, once you get to pushing any of these motors that far, you really need to think about throwing a set of rods and pistons in it anyways, because it's only a matter of time. Now, another thing that I'm going to be doing today, if you probably noticed, I have this very long, this is actually a concrete drill bit, but I'm going to be running this in and out of here to kind of clear up a lot of the casting. I know you can't see right now because I don't have a flashlight in it, but I actually never did it on my old motor. Not once. I never cleaned out any of the excess casting, but let me go get a flashlight for you. Okay, if you look down in there, well, I'll tell you what. Let me just remove this guy altogether. So if you look down in there, you can see a lot of very, very nasty casting. It's just excess stuff. It's just garbage. Let me see this one here. So this one's not quite as bad. Maybe I did clear this one out. I don't remember. Yeah, hard to tell. This one's not quite so bad. This one here, however, you can see that one coming down is just awful. So we're going to be sending that drill bit through there. You can also go in from the back. There's a freeze plug that runs all the way. Basically, you can poke it all the way through. Other than that, I would say this motor's pretty much ready to go. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the only few differences between these 2 blocks. So if you're in the market for a twin turbo block versus an NA block, just know the primary differences is really the oil filter tree and the pistons, which if you're going to change out the pistons anyway, doesn't matter. Same thing with the heads. If you're going to change out the camshafts for, I don't know, aftermarket cams, in my opinion, it's not going to make that big of a difference because the differences between a twin turbo and an NA heads are very, very minimal. If you really want to get into detail, I believe there is some casting differences between the different heads. But to be honest, I don't even know what those are, and I've only ever used the same set of heads on every single build that I've done. So with that said, let me get to finishing up cleaning this thing up. I just realized that I also have to remove this guy here to eventually switch over to this motor. Maybe I'll save that for another day, but I do still want to clean up all of this gasket material, flip it over, clean up the head surface a little bit, and then also run a thread chaser through all these holes still. And what I'm also going to end up having to do is send it off to the machine shop to have them drill out and tap this hole for my oil dipstick. So better off just have them do it rather than me do it and mess it up, because I don't really have a drill to fit down in there. You really need like a right angle drill with a small drill bit. So okay guys, real quick, I didn't record this because I wasn't sure if it was actually going to work or not, and I'm only halfway done with it. But if you remember me saying about the little ball check valve that's in here, well, I was able to get mine out. I was able to basically pry around the outer edge of this little the piece that holds it in, and the check valve eventually came right out, and I was able to pull the spring out after that. I'm not going to do the second one, but however, to replace this, I don't have the plug itself. Now, you can buy the plugs through like Concept Z Performance. I saw already they're like $1.50 or something. However, I think what I'm going to do instead is just run a drill and tap. Probably not drill it out. Probably just run a tap down in there and then run a plug down in it that's threaded with some sealant. Now, when I did the last one, I kind of like went in there and pried up on it with like a pick tool. However, this one here, I think I'm going to try doing it a little bit differently, because I have an idea. I think this will work way better and be way more prettier, let's say. Oh, nope. All right, that didn't go as planned. Hold on, guys. Oh, maybe we can just pry the whole thing off like this. Because that is just like a brass fitting. So I think, there we go. That one popped right out. So yeah, this is all I'm doing, y'all. A little bit of pressure and it comes right off. Now, we can pull the spring out. I have to give it a little spin, a little bit of rotation here. There we go. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can do this. Obviously, if you have a slide hammer, you can slide it in there. I have a slide hammer, but nothing quite that small. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna thread the hole and then run a bolt down in there, and then take the slide hammer that I have and hook it onto the bolt. I think that'll work anyways. So we're just gonna continue with threading this, and hopefully that'll be enough. I just got part way through and that thing started spinning. So that means I might be able to just yank it out as it is. I cannot believe it. That came out way easier than I thought it would. So now I'm just gonna try to do the same exact thing to this other side, and hopefully I can just pull it out like I did with this side with the tap. We'll see what happens. I don't even know if I have a bolt in this size, if I'm being 100% honest. But that worked out really, really freaking well. If you guys are curious at all, this is a M12 by 1.5 tap. Come down here, grab my tap. We're just gonna run the tap all the way through. Well, at least until it bottoms out. Hopefully it catches like that other one did and just spins the metal sleeve in place and I'm able to pull it out. Go. And away we go. Gotta tell you guys, once you start playing around with drills and taps, like, things get so much easier. You can do so much more if you learn to tap certain things. There we go. Spinning in place. Just gonna get it real loosey-goosey and give it a couple pulls. There we go. Look at that. Once again, guys, that is awesome. So because I have this already torn down, I can just blow it out and it'll just fall out of there no matter what. Again, this is going to a machine shop, so all the metal shavings and everything is gonna get cleaned out of here. If you do this on your own, just remember to clean up the metal shavings very, very well. So the engine block is ready to go. It's all cleaned up, well, for the most part. It's not perfect, obviously, but by the time it goes to the machine shop, they're gonna have metal shavings all over the place because it's getting decked. We gotta get the main caps installed, and then this one is actually getting sleeved. So it's gonna be sent through the hot tank quite a number of times, or at least very thoroughly. Now, the reason I'm sleeving this, and you probably look at it and say, oh, look at all that meat between the cylinders. It's actually a coolant jacket that runs between these. Unlike the JZ, where they're actually Siamese bores and the cylinder walls butt up to each other, so there's no coolant going through a 2JZ block. However, on these motors there is coolant, and the cylinders like to split between number 3 and number 4 at right around 800 pound-feet of torque. Now, usually 800 pound-feet of torque, making well over 1,000 horsepower. and we're boogieing. So I don't want to take those chances, and I'm gonna be a little proactive and just have sleeves installed. Luckily for me, I have a machine shop right up the road that's willing to do it. And funny enough, it is the exact same machine shop that built the Devil's E motor. If you aren't familiar with that car, he runs about an 820 now. I think he might be down to an 810, 815 at the quarter mile. World's fastest street chassis 300ZX. I'm literally taking his exact same bottom end build and machine shop and putting it into my car. I've got a few differences between the two, mainly in the heads, but other than that, they're pretty much identical. So for the bottom end, we've got the CP pistons. Then moving on, we've got the CP Carrillo wrist pins. These things are rated at 1200 horsepower for a 6-cylinder. Very good peace of mind to have. And then we've got the Molnar rods. Not using the Eagle rods or anything like that. These things are made and designed by Tom Molnar here in the US of A. He's designed these specifically for the VG30. He does a lot of stuff with the small block Chevy guys as well. So kind of just transferred over, and somebody was nice enough to go to him and get a set made for these cars. So I think the only way you can get these actually is through the Molnar website. Anyways, I got me a set of those, and then we're also running the Mazworks main caps. These are 2-bolt. Now, I had a lot of you message me after I mentioned that my engine blew up that I should go ahead and order the EPR 4-bolt main caps. No, I'm not doing that. I have my own reasons. Went with the Mazworks 2-bolt main caps. They seem to be working very, very well for a number of different people who are making 1300, 1200 horsepower. Do I need that power? No, not really. I'll probably make that power and then turn it down anyways, because anything over like 800 horsepower in the Z on the street is just, it's dumb. I'm gonna say that. So anyways, we've got these going into it. It's a very nice piece. I'm really excited, and I'm willing to support Mazworks because they do awesome work, and the fact that they're actually getting into the VG30 stuff is really freaking cool to me, and I'd like to see them continue to do so. So I'm going to support them by purchasing their products. But yeah, that should explain just about everything I got going on. That will give you the lowdown general idea of what I got going into this motor, this next go around. I am freaking pumped for it. Thank you all for following along, especially those of you that have purchased merchandise for me lately. Y'all are the real MVPs. I can't thank you guys enough. Like, this is surreal for me, and I'm very excited to be sharing it how I am on YouTube and just in general. I hope it really brings light to the chassis and to the platform, gets, you know, new respect and stuff like that, because these things are so overshadowed, and it's kind of funny in a way. I'm okay with it. I don't care, but at the same time, I think it'd be really cool to bring some light to the 300ZX platform, which is what I intend on doing here. But thank you all so much for watching. If you aren't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the like button for me if you found anything informational out of this video. And we'll catch y'all next time. Take care.